friends, this is Jules, aka the Caffeinated Cozy Gamer. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, hi, my name is Jules. If you are not, welcome back. It's lovely to see you. Now, without wasting any more time, let's get into this because today we have to talk about yesterday's Nintendo Direct for Nintendo Switch 2. Let's go! The Direct opened showing Mario Kart World, a brand new Mario Kart game that looks to be the very first fully open world Mario Kart. There are going to be more characters in the races, there's going to be skins. They've already announced that the tracks are going to change depending on the time of day, depending on the weather, there's going to be some differences. And honestly, this makes a game series I already love even better. I've been playing Mario Kart 8 since it released way back on the Wii U. It has been a staple on my Switch for the best part of a decade. It is the game that comes out whenever friends are over, whenever family is over, and this just looks to be more and better. There's going to be new modes, so we're going to have the classic Grand Prix, where we're going to be racing on 4 different tracks. However, we will also be driving between the tracks, so the action keeps going in between each of the races, which I find a very interesting thing to do. It's almost a cross with, I want to say, the Forza Horizon games, which I've seen my husband play. And it's just really interesting. There's also going to be some knockout matches where you just need to keep going. And if you don't manage to place within a certain number of places, when you reach the checkpoint, you are going to be eliminated. And then, so the faster you go, the better you are, the further you can go. I love the idea of this personally. This is definitely something that is going to be used a lot in our household, and I cannot wait to get my hands on this in a couple of months. There's also going to be free roam, so we can basically explore this massive open world. We can drive anywhere, we can go around with our friends, we're going to be able to take pictures and just see all these beautiful vistas. And honestly, just the more I see about this game, the more I really want to play it ASAP. It just looks so cute, it just looks so fun. And it's just quintessential Mario Kart on steroids, frankly, from the looks of it. Now, we know that this is coming day and date with the Nintendo Switch 2. And we also know that there is going to be a Nintendo Direct focusing exclusively on Mario Kart World in a couple of weeks' time on the 17th of April. At 2 PM UK time, not entirely sure of the US equivalent, however, I'm definitely going to be tuning in for this because I want to see more. After Mario Kart, Nintendo finally revealed what the new C button on the right-hand Joy-Con does, and it turned out to be Nintendo Game Chat. So the Switch 2 is going to have built-in voice and video if you purchase a separate camera attachment, chat, so you can play with your friends. This looks quite interesting because obviously on the base Switch there were no features of this kind. We had to use a separate online app or we had to use a separate service like Discord. So I find this really interesting. It's not something I would necessarily be using frequently, but I can definitely see, especially kids who perhaps are not allowed on social media apps, don't have access to a smartphone. This is going to be actually fantastic in terms of just playing games socially. And I also love the idea that you can stream your screen to your friends during these calls. And the first thing I thought about when I saw this feature is that when my mum, who is an older gamer, who gets fairly often stuck and calls me to ask, oh, how do I get past this? She's now going to be able on Switch 2 to just give me a call when I'm playing something else, show me her screen, and I can just guide her through whatever she's doing, which I find exceptionally charming, I'm not going to lie. I am slightly concerned about how low the frame rate looks when you look at your friends' screens. However, I do assume that that is going to be dependent on 2 things. First, on how good your internet connection is, and also just on how many people are on the call at the moment. I would not expect to see so much lag in my friend's footage that's being streamed into the call. If it's just 2 people on the call, obviously this is showing 5 people all streaming footage at the same time. That's going to be slow on anyone's internet, no matter how fast. So hopefully it's going to be smoother when it releases. But yeah, this looks lovely. Again, it's not something I'm going to be necessarily using very frequently, but it's definitely a step up into putting Nintendo consoles on par with the social features available on other manufacturers' consoles. Then Nintendo revealed a new functionality called Nintendo Game Share, which is very reminiscent of the old download play functionality on Nintendo DS's. So basically, for certain games, locally, we will be able to share the game to other consoles in order to play cooperatively on different screens. So we will only need one copy of the game. This will also work with older Switches and Switch Lites, which I find very interesting, not just Switch 2s. And it just allows everyone to have their own screen while we play. It's been revealed that a handful of games will receive updates that will support this, so we're going to be seeing Clubhouse Games, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, Big Brain Academy, and Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which they're all fantastic games to play together. I cannot wait to see how this gets used. I can imagine in my family this is going to be a hit. And then we finally got a proper look at the Nintendo Switch 2. So it is going to have a bigger screen, 7.9 inches compared to the 6.2 of the original Switch, but it's going to still have the same thickness. It's going to be a higher definition display, 1080p versus the 720p of the current Switch, which it makes sense for a bigger screen. It would look very pixelated, I think, at lower resolution, so that is going to look lovely. The screen is going to support up to 120 FPS, which I find extremely impressive. I do not think that every game will be running that smoothly, but it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be a very good LCD screen, no OLED here, but it's going to have HDR support, which means colors are going to be more vivid. There's going to be more contrast between light and dark areas. The Joy-Con 2 are going to now attach magnetically, no more rails involved, no more risk of breaking your Joy-Con. If your child manages to just slot it on the wrong side or backwards, there's going to be a release button on the back. We're also getting bigger SL and SR buttons, so when we're passing the Joy-Con to a friend to play in multiplayer, the buttons are just going to be a little bit more comfortable, a little bit easier to press. There's going to be larger control sticks as well, which I like. I'm a person with very small hands, but still the Switch joysticks are so small. And we're getting mouse controls, which was teased in the reveal trailer in January. I do not think a lot of games are going to be using this, but I can definitely see its use in things like Civilization. There's going to be easier ports of PC games, so that's going to be fantastic. We're getting better speakers as well in handheld mode, which the Switch ones are already decent, but that's going to be pretty nice to just have just that little bit better sound quality. We have a built-in microphone as well, so we're going to be able to chat with our friends even in handheld mode if we're using the new chat function to play together. And there's also 3D audio, which I love it when games implement this. It's so nice to play with headphones and you can actually hear the directionality of thunder or footsteps on the ground. It is just so immersive. I love using this feature when it's available. And it looks like this is going to be working both with headphones and also just from the speakers. There's also going to be a new kickstand that's much more similar to the Switch OLED's one compared to the original very, very flimsy Switch 1 stand that we had. It's going to be very adjustable. It's going to have 2 USB-C ports, so we can now charge it both from the bottom and from the top. So no more need for a separate stand if you play in tabletop mode a lot and you need to charge it. You can just charge it from the top, and you can also plug in the new camera attachment for video chat if need be in that port. The storage is also going to be better. It's going to be larger and it's going to be faster. 256 gig instead of the 32 in the original Switch. That means that's going to be able to hold so many more games. It's also faster storage, so loading times are going to be a lot quicker. The new dock also is going to offer 4K support, which I never thought we were going to see 4K on a Nintendo console. I'm very happy to have been proven wrong. Everything is just going to look so good at that level of definition, especially now that TVs are bigger. Most of them now have 4K support, so that is going to be fantastic. There is a fan in the dock also to help cool the console. No more wanting to yeet your Switch because it is so hot after a session of TV play. It's going to be backwards compatible, which we knew. So I believe it's going to play every single Switch game. The problem is going to be for games that require the Joy-Cons to be attached to something like the Labo, also possibly like the Ring Fit Adventure. I imagine this would not be working. We get a grip. So it's going to be the standard package as the Nintendo Switch one was. We're going to get the dock, we're going to get the grip. Everything else we're going to have to buy separately. Now, there is going to be a small game available at launch that is going to help walk you through all of the new features that the Switch 2 has. However, I was expecting this to be a pack-in title, so for free. It was revealed that this is going to be a paid title. I find this extremely strange, to be honest. I feel like this is something that is basically a glorified instruction booklet. I do not want to have to pay for this. I don't imagine many people would want to pay for this, unless it's, I don't know, 99 pence or something like that, which we already know it's not going to be. I do not see this selling well, to be honest, but we'll see what Nintendo does. It might become a pack in the future if no one buys it. I do not know. We also got some more information about what the game cards are going to be like. They're going to be the same shape as the Nintendo Switch original cartridges, but they are going to be red and it's going to use new technology that's going to be much, much faster. This is also going to extend to the microSD cards. So unfortunately, the standard microSD in your current Switch is not going to be working with Nintendo Switch 2. You are going to need specific express microSD cards. These don't need to be the Nintendo branded ones, anyone will do, but it needs to have that EX notation on it because otherwise these new games will require faster speeds for loading and standard SD cards just will not cut it. We will also be able to transfer all of our data from the current Nintendo Switch to the new one, so if you are upgrading, you're going to be able to just transfer all of your save data, all of your games. Just remember, for Animal Crossing New Horizons, you need the island transfer tool in order to do that. We're also getting a new Pro Controller that's going to have the new C button, and it's also going to have 2 programmable buttons on the back that it seems we will be able to program to do extra different functions on every game. So that's a nice accessibility feature. I'm quite a fan. Nothing groundbreaking. I will not be buying this at launch personally, but I can see quite a few people might be interested in that. We also got confirmation that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to launch on June 5th, so just over 2 months from now. On the Switch 2, we will be able to play 3 different kinds of games. So there's going to be games exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2, obviously, that take advantage of all the new technology inside the console. There's going to be compatible games released on Nintendo Switch 1, so that's basically everything from the back catalogue. And then there's going to be a new thing, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition games. So certain games that were released on the Nintendo Switch 1 will get improvements, let's call them, in order to put them more on par with the next generation. So one of them is going to be Super Mario Party Jamboree. That's the Mario Party that just released in, I believe, October or November of 2024. And this is going to essentially receive an expansion. So if you already have the game, you will be able to pay essentially for a new DLC that is going to add better performance. So it's going to run at possibly up to 4K, up to 120 FPS. It's going to have new mini games that are going to be using the new functions like the mouse controls, the microphone, and the camera. So it's going to be an expansion and a performance improvement all bundled in one. We do not have an exact price for this yet for Europe and America, but we do know that in Japan, this is going to cost roughly the equivalent of $20. So I would expect this to be in the range of £14.99 to £19.99 roughly. It's standard DLC pricing that I would expect from this. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have also been revealed to be 2 of the games that will receive these new Nintendo Switch 2 Edition upgrades. These are expected to cost in the ballpark of the $10 mark. However, it was revealed after this direct that if you are a Nintendo Switch Online member, you will be getting the expansions, or I guess the upgrades, for these Zelda games for free. This is going to make them run at 4K 60 FPS docked, and I believe 1080p 60 FPS just natively on the console when playing handheld. And we're also going to have a new function via the Nintendo Switch Online app that's going to be essentially game guides built into the service. Which, you know, it's interesting, it's not necessary, but here it is. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is also going to be getting a performance upgrade bundled with actually an expansion in the Star-Crossed World exclusive Nintendo Switch 2 edition. I would expect this again to cost in the ballpark of what the Mario Party expansion is going to cost, so £10 to £20, $10 to $20, that sort of range. And this seems to expand on, I would assume, every single level currently existing in the base game. It's not specified, but I adored Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I've been wanting to replay it for ages, and this is just a perfect way to jump in. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which we saw in the Nintendo Direct last week, is also going to have both a Nintendo Switch and a Nintendo Switch 2 edition, where the Nintendo Switch 2 edition is going to be using mouse controls and very impressively is actually going to support either 60 FPS at 4K or 1080p at 120 FPS, which is extremely impressive, I've got to be honest, for what is essentially a portable console. The game looks amazing. It's not one I will be playing. This kind of game just gives me anxiety just looking at it, but I know that people are going to love this. And then we also got to look at Pokemon Legends ZA Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which looks so much cleaner, to be honest, than the footage we've seen of the game so far. The buildings still look completely 2D, but at least the textures are better, everything is so much smoother, so much cleaner. The frame rate especially is so much better. And I would even recommend possibly playing this just if you get a Switch 2, it looks rough on the Switch 1. We then got to look at a new Nintendo game called Drag and Drive, which seems to be the somewhat weird, out of left field game that Nintendo has created in order to showcase the new mouse controls. I actually think this was probably the weakest showing that we had in the entire Direct. The colors are very muted. The game, while the idea seems quite cool, playing basketball on wheelchairs, using each of the controllers to direct your wheels, to move your arms, to throw the ball, it just looks very dull. It does not have a lot of personality. It looks very clunky. And I honestly cannot see this becoming as popular as something like Snipper Clips or ARMS, which were the showcases for the Nintendo Joy-Con functionality the first time around with the first Switch. After the reveal of Drag and Drive, we actually got the first of 2 long segments dedicated exclusively to third-party games coming to the Nintendo Switch within the first few months of the console's release. This includes the biggest reveal in my opinion, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which I am sure is going to be so popular on the console. We got to see Hades 2, which is Hades 1, amazing game. Hades 2 has been in open access on Steam for a while. I believe this is going to be the full release coming to Switch 2. We got to see Street Fighter 6. I got so excited when Capcom said they were bringing something. I thought it was Monster Hunter, but it was Street Fighter. They brought a sequel to Demon X Machina, which released on Switch 1 a few years ago. Split Fiction, which actually looks amazing and is going to be available day and date when the Switch 2 releases. EA Football Club and Madden. A Switch 2 version of Hogwarts Legacy, which looks miles better than the Switch Basic version we got a while back. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. Hitman. Project 007, Bravely Default Flying Fairy HD Remaster, which the original on 3DS was such a good game, I can't wait for this, and Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. That was a lot of games. That's not all of the third-party support coming to Switch around release though, as later there's going to be another segment with even more games that I'm going to be listing for you all. And that's Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I am a massive Zelda fan. Zelda is the series that turned me into a gamer when I was a little girl, and I absolutely adored Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity when it released in, I want to say 2020, possibly. I remember at least playing it in 2020 during the pandemic. I thought it was so amazing. It had such a good story. It showed you what happened before the events of Breath of the Wild. I thought it was so fantastic. It fleshed out the characters so much more. The only flaw was its performance, which was unfortunately quite poor when you had so many enemies on the screen. I imagine this will not be a problem with the Nintendo Switch 2, where we are now going to be able to play as Zelda during the events she experienced in the past with the Zonai when she was transported back in time at the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. I am very, very much looking forward to seeing this winter on Nintendo Switch 2. I am so curious to see these characters fleshed out properly, since we only saw them in these few cutscenes during the game. I want to know more. I want to see more, and I feel like this is exactly going to give me that. So I am very excited for this. I imagine the performance issues of the first game in the series are going to be a thing of the past on the new hardware. And I think this is a fantastic way to bring a Zelda game into the first few months of the Nintendo Switch 2. And then, boy oh boy, they did actually do it. We are getting GameCube games exclusive to Nintendo Switch 2 in the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. Now, I am a 90s kid. I was born in 95, so I was in primary school when the GameCube came out, and I remember spending so many afternoons at my best friend's house playing these games. And when I saw The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, I literally screamed, this is the game that turned me into a gamer. This is probably still my favorite Zelda game of all time, in spite of all the amazing Zelda games that have come out since. I cannot wait to play this. This is coming out day and date with the Nintendo Switch on June 5th. We're also getting Soul Calibur 2 on the same date, as well as, and we will see it on the screen in a second, F-Zero for GameCube. Now, I've never played F-Zero, I've never played Soul Calibur. They are not games that I have any nostalgia for, but just seeing The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, for me, that is going to be more than enough. I've been wanting to replay that for years and years, and now I get the chance to, which is going to be so amazing. I absolutely cannot wait. Now, I was hoping for the OG Animal Crossing. That unfortunately was not shown at all. They have, however, shown some of the games that will be coming to the catalog later down the line. So I expect this to be updated fairly frequently over the course of a few months once the Nintendo Switch 2 releases. A few of them I am particularly excited about because there are 2 Pokemon games that have been locked to the GameCube for ages. So Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Pokemon Colosseum, we're going to get Chibi Robo, Mario Smash Football, the first Luigi's Mansion, Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. There's going to be something for everyone, and these are games that are so difficult to get right now. I cannot wait for them to finally be accessible to everyone. And alongside the Nintendo GameCube games on the Nintendo essentially Virtual Console, with the expansion pack, we're also going to be able to purchase a Nintendo GameCube controller. That's going to be wireless and is going to have the new chat button. Not for me, but I'm sure people will go crazy and this will be impossible to find. We then got the second round of fast-paced reveals of third-party games coming to Switch 2. Not all of these are going to be Switch 2 exclusives, not all of them are going to have Switch 2 versions, but all of them are going to be playable, and I'm going to be rattling them off very quickly because, oh boy, there's so many. We've got Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, Borderlands 4 coming day and date with other consoles, Civilization 7 with mouse controls, 2K wrestling and basketball games, Survival Kids, Enter the Gungeon 2, Star Seeker Astroneer Expeditions, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, which looks amazing, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, Kinitsugami Path of the Goddess, we got Hollow Knight, Silk Song, which showed like 10 seconds of footage and everyone went crazy, Story of Seasons Grand Bazaar, Goodnight Universe, 2 Point Museum, Wild Hearts S, Witchbrook, Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 S, Rune Factory Guardians of Azuma, Marvel Cosmic Invasion, Star Wars Outlaws, Nobunaga's Ambition, Fast Fusion, Shadow Labyrinth, Raidu Remastered, AI The Somnium Files, No Sleep for Konami Date, Reanimal, Fortnite, Arcade Archive Racer, Professor Layton and the New World of Steam, Tamagotchi Plaza, and Human Fall Flat 2. Most of these are going to be coming within the first few months from the release of the Switch 2. All of them are going to be playable on it. There's going to be so much choice. Forget about the 7 games we had available when the Switch 1 launched. This is going to be huge. You know, the star was lighting up. Kirby was falling. So I thought, okay, new Kirby game. That's fantastic. Let's go. But this turned out to not exactly be what I expected, because I did not know this because I never owned the GameCube. There was a game on the GameCube called Kirby Air Ride. It was a racing game. People loved it. I hear it was amazing. And it's been, what, 20 plus years and no other game in the series has come out? It turns out this is going to be Kirby Air Riders. It's the new game directed by Masahiro Sakurai, who is the director of Smash Bros. The little bit of footage we are seeing, frankly, looks incredible. It's so colorful. It's so beautiful. I can't wait to see this. It seems like a slightly odd choice to have this come out the same year as Mario Kart World. But it looks so good, I'm going to get it regardless, because are you kidding me? Did you see how gorgeous that flower field looks? I need to get in on this as soon as possible. Please give it to me. I will throw money at you and I will buy it. And then we close the Direct with this, which I can't believe I didn't notice the bananas when this was first playing, when I was reacting to the trailer. I initially thought 3D Mario, but it didn't look quite right for a new 3D Mario. This was like, this could be an Odyssey too, but there's just something about the look that does not scream Odyssey. And then the bananas, the monkeys, can you guess? You get it. It's going to be a brand new Donkey Kong game, but not just any Donkey Kong game. It's a 3D Donkey Kong game, which I believe has not been done since the Nintendo 64, when I was literally a toddler. I just turned 30. It's been so many years. And honestly, I love how this looks. It's so colorful. The world seems completely interactable and destructible. I've never seen something like this. I love Donkey Kong's new look to match his new look in the movie. Honestly, I was never too big of a fan of the look that he had in the more recent games over the last couple of decades. This just has so much more personality, in my opinion. And this just looks great. I honestly cannot wait to play this. It seems to be a bit more chaotic than your average Mario, but you know what? It's novel, it's different, and it looks like a heck of a lot of fun. And this is actually going to be coming out not directly at release, so the Nintendo Switch 2 is coming on June 5th. This is actually coming on the 17th of July, so this is going to come about 6 weeks after release, which gives us plenty of time to just focus on Mario Kart first, on any improved Nintendo Switch 1 titles that we want to play on the Switch 2. So yeah, I think that is going to be a very good game. I just love the animations, the colors, the way it looks. Look at that big boss. Look at how you can interact with this world. It just looks fantastic, and I'm here for it. Even though I've never been a massive Donkey Kong fan, this could be the game that turns me into a Donkey Kong girly, and I'm here for Donkey Kong Bonanza. But that is not all, because once the Nintendo Direct was actually over, we got a lot more information that just trickled in bit by bit. And I'm going to be talking about that for a few minutes now, just to make sure that we have all of the information all in the same place. And as a backup to confirm the information that I'm going to be giving you guys, I'm going to be using the articles written by the very talented people over at Nintendo Life. Hi everyone, Editing Jules here with a quick thing to add. I just found out that officially the Nintendo Switch 1 Pro Controller and Joy-Cons are going to be compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2. Obviously, you won't be able to actually attach the Switch 1 Joy-Cons to the Nintendo Switch 2, but you will be able to pair them wirelessly, same as the Pro Controller. So if, like me, you have several pairs of Joy-Cons lying around that you use when people come over to your house and play Mario Kart and play Mario Party, there is no need to buy new Switch 2 controllers outside of what comes in the box with the Nintendo Switch 2, because you will be able to use your old ones. For me, that's a fantastic, fantastic piece of news, because I have the original Pro Controller, my husband has a Nintendo Switch with a pair of Joy-Cons, and I have Animal Crossing Joy-Cons and the pink printer speech Joy-Cons that I really did not want to part with. I can now keep using them. I can still play Mario Kart with a bunch of friends when they come over. So at least, considering how expensive the games are going to be, we're not going to have to spend an arm and a leg or sell a kidney in order to get more controllers. If we have 4 family members that come for dinner regularly that we want to play Mario Kart World with, we can use our old controllers. All right, back to editing. Bye! Okay, so we have a few tabs here. I'm gonna go through them one by one, just so we've got all of this information in the same place. Now, first things first, a handful of Nintendo Switch 1 games, including Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, is going to be getting a free performance upgrade on Switch 2. I believe these are going to be available on day 1, and can I say thank God, because if there's a Switch 1 game that needs a performance upgrade, it is going to be Scarlet and Violet, and people were going to riot if Nintendo made us pay for it. So the games included in this are going to be ARMS, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Super Mario Odyssey, Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury, Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, Game Builder Garage, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, and Big Brain Academy Brain vs. Brain. Now, some of these, specifically Captain Toad, Mario Odyssey, Mario 3D World, Clubhouse Games, and Big Brain Academy, are also likely going to be getting compatibility with the new game sharing feature that we talked about earlier on release. But this is the list of games that we can expect will get some form of enhancement for free on day 1 on the new Nintendo Switch 2. So you've got the cartridge, you pop it in, you can download this update for free, and it's just going to run a little bit better, which, fantastic, I'm happy about that. Now, we also get Nintendo Switch 2 editions of games, which we do not have a price revealed yet for the West, but we do know roughly that in Japan at least, it's going to be the equivalent of $10 to $15, or regional equivalent, for the updates that just include performance enhancements, like what we're getting for Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, and something in the $20 range, or regional equivalent, for the performance enhancements that also come with expansions. So Mario Party Jamboree is getting an expansion, and so is Kirby the Forgotten Land. So those will be more expensive because you don't just get an upgrade, you actually get new content. And to be honest, that pricing makes sense because this is roughly what I was expecting based on how Sony handled upgrades between PS4 and PS5. So some games had free enhancements. Some games you had to pay £10 to £15, depending on how much work had been done on the game in order to make it perform as such, if you wanted the PS5 version and already owned the PS4. It makes sense. Is it consumer friendly? Not necessarily. Could Nintendo have eaten some of the cost of this? I don't know. But it seems to match industry standards, and I cannot complain if it matches what other video game producers, video game companies are doing. However, the Zelda specifically enhancements are free if you have Nintendo Switch Online. That's been confirmed. So the paid upgrade packs are going to be free for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom if you have Nintendo Switch Online. So just like you can get DLC for Animal Crossing, for example, Mario Kart 8, for free if you have the expansion pass, so can you with the Zelda enhancements. It's not clear if they're going to be... Actually, no, you won't have to fork out extra coin if you already have access to the original game and an active Switch Online Plus expansion pack membership. So you have to have the expansion pack, and then you get them for free. Personally, I'm happy about that because we do have a family subscription with expansion that we share between my husband, my parents, my brother-in-law. It works out at about £8 a year for each of us. It works. And this is a nice little perk. Now, in terms of the console pricing, it has been revealed that the Nintendo Switch is going to have 2 bundles at release. One is just going to include the basic console, which is including the Nintendo Switch 2 with the 2 Joy-Cons, the Joy-Con 2 grip, the straps, the Nintendo Switch 2 dock, an ultra-high-speed HDMI cable to enable 4K video, a Nintendo Switch 2 charger, and a USB-C charging cable. And that is going to cost $395.99 in the UK, $469.99 in Europe, and a whopping $449.99 in the US. If you want Mario Kart World bundled digitally with it, that goes up to $499.99 in the US, $429.99 here in the UK, and $509.99 in mainland Europe. Is that steeper than I expected? No. I've got to be honest. I was expecting the Nintendo Switch 2 to be priced in the ballpark of £350 to £400 because I'm in the UK. Because let's be honest, the Nintendo Switch 2 released at $275 8 years ago. And this is just an improvement overall on everything. The dock has more technology inside it. The console has a bigger screen. It has, I assume, a bigger battery. It has just better innards. It's just more powerful overall, and that costs money. It's not going to be as powerful as a PS5, but I was expecting it to be in the same ballpark of price, roughly, mostly because the PS5, all the components are in there, you stick it under the TV and that's it. The Switch has to have a battery, it has to have a screen, it has to have all these components that drive the price up. So I'm personally not upset about the console pricing, I think that's great. I think that accurately reflects the value of the console. The problem that I think a lot of people are going to have is the prices of the games. And now, the one thing I'm going to say about the games before I start talking about the price is remember that very few retailers actually sell the game for the recommended RRP. Because Zelda Tears of the Kingdom on release was priced at £60 in the UK, but a lot of retailers priced pre-orders and currently still price the game at anything between £43 and £50. So unless you only buy directly from Nintendo or from chains like GameStop, depending on where you are in the world, who tend to also follow RRP, there's enough competition, especially with online retailers, that it's very unlikely we will ever have to buy a physical game for this full price. I would expect to see £10 to £15 less at least, possibly as much as $20 off of that RRP, if we go and shop around a little bit. And now, the games. Physical games are going to be outrageously expensive at recommended RRP. Because Mario Kart World, at least, is going to cost £75 physically in the UK, or $80 in the States. Which, frankly, makes the bundle a really good deal. I was going to get the bundle anyway, but now I am definitely getting the bundle. And now, the big difference is that now, the digital version of the game is going to be cheaper. So, the 75 physical Mario Kart becomes $66.99 digital. Hopefully on sale, that's going to be closer to the £50 mark, but I would be shocked if I were not able to go on Amazon or Shop2 or another one of the online retailers that we have in the UK and not find Mario for £60 in a few weeks' time. Now, Donkey Kong Bonanza, on the other hand, is slightly cheaper. It's going to be £70 in the US instead of $80. And in the UK, it's going to be $66.99 instead of $75. So it looks like Nintendo is probably adapting some sort of dynamic pricing for their games, where the bigger games that have had longer development times, like Mario Kart, like Zelda, like maybe a 3D Mario, are going to be more expensive. And other games that have not been so intensive in terms of the need for resources during development will be cheaper. This is very expensive. This is very expensive because PS5 games in the UK that release at 60, and Mario Kart is going to cost £75. That is ever so slightly outrageous to me, to be honest. And the only thing that's holding me back from going completely bananas, pun kind of intended for Donkey Kong, about it is the fact that I know that we are unlikely to ever pay those prices. Unless we buy, again, directly from Nintendo, or unless you are digital only. Because obviously digital only, you either wait for a sale or you buy at that price. You don't have much of a choice. So I would say we wait to jump for the torches and pitchforks until we actually know what most retailers are going to be pricing these games at. Because again, I am not expecting to see these RRP anywhere but the Nintendo store and possibly a couple of big box chain stores that only deal in video games that tend to have these very high prices because, let's be honest, business is not exactly booming for them. So I believe, guys, that is everything that there is to know about the Nintendo Switch 2 right now. We've gone over everything that was shown in the Direct. We've gone over the free performance upgrades, the paid ones, the expansions, the pricing of the console, and the pricing of the games. So I believe I have given you a very thorough overview of what we are getting. I have been talking for, I believe, over an hour, so I'm now going to go and edit this video into something a little bit shorter. But do let me know what you thought about the Direct. Do let me know if you're planning on getting the Switch 2 day one like me, if you are planning to wait, what you think about the games that were revealed, what you think about the pricing as well. Was this what you were expecting? Has this hit you out of left field like a ton of bricks? Leave a comment down below, let me know. And if you like my content, do come and watch me on Twitch. I stream Cozy Games multiple times a week. I also am now trying to make videos more frequently here on YouTube. I'm going to be live on the 17th of April for the Mario Kart World Direct. And I hope you all have a fantastic day and hope to see some of you soon. Caffeinated Cozy Gamer out. Bye!